It's nice weather in the Northeast. It's also 11 a.m. Welcome into SportsbookReview.com, the closing line sit-down edition of Major League Baseball. I'll be your host today, Donnie Rightside, with my partner in crime, the big man on campus. Welcome into the show today. A lot to go over. NBA action, NHL action, MLB action, the draft in full swing as we look for some value picks today, Jeff. In rounds 4 through 7, should be fast and furious. A lot of teams filling out needs, but it is Saturday, one of my favorite shows of the week. Jeff, welcome to the show. What is going on?
Good. How are you today?
Good, brother.
Looking forward to Saturday in sports. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I might as well start with a couple things, last night as we take a look, just going over the odds board. We'll hit most of the Major League Baseball games today. And again, a lot of stuff is going on here. NBA action last night, Jeff. I don't really think it was too much of a surprise. Otto Porter not playing last night for the Washington Wizards. I actually thought the Wizards would win this game, Jeff. Had the lead entering into the fourth quarter, but as good teams do, as number one seeds are supposed to do, Jeff, you're supposed to put away the lesser team in the fourth quarter. Toronto Raptors do that and move on to face the winner of the Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, Washington didn't shoot the ball well. They only shoot it about 40%. But listen, Toronto looked good. They got the job done. But I'm not overly impressed with that group. They need to play a bit better, need a better output from their bench. Lowry, DeRozan, and Valanciunas were very good last night. But, where was the bench? Where was Serge Ibaka? Too many times in the series were they nowhere to be found. They're going to have to play better. But, look, nice win by them. They get the job done. They move on. Not overly impressed, though, with the Toronto Raptors. We'll see what happens. They'll have to wait a little bit until they find out who they play. Both Eastern Conference series going to Game 7s here with the Pacers and Cavs and then the Bucks Celtics, which will go tonight.
Yeah, I would have lost that Toronto game if I would have placed a wager on that game. I would have had the Wizards. Game 2, I would have had the Indiana Pacers. I said it yesterday. Blowout, easy victory over LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's just, it just seems they just don't have any interest heading on the road sometimes. Game 6, Indiana kept it close in the other games. I just thought it was a great spot for Indiana to smoke them. Now, again, series flips back to Cleveland. I think LeBron James will take control and win that game and the series for the Indiana Pacers. But it's LeBron or nothing in this series for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which I guess is exactly the way he wants it since he built that team. But an easy, no-nonsense butt whipping by the Indiana Pacers here.
Yeah, and LeBron was the only one that did anything last night. Again, too many times in this series have they been forced to just get great performances out of LeBron James. That's been a big problem for certain teams. His team, other teams. There's just not enough production from the rest of the team. What does Kyle Korver do exactly? I'm still trying to understand that. He's useless. He doesn't do anything. None of his good outweighs his bad. He's bad. But yeah, the Cavs, you would hope to take control in Game 7. But, Indiana's a better basketball team than they are. They just are all the way around. There's a lot of guys to like on this Indiana team. They play hard. They're a little annoying at times with some of the things that they do. But overall, you look at the team, whether it's a Bogdanovich or Turner or Oladipo or Stevenson, they're not like, some of them are kind of annoying, but they play well. They get the job done. They're pretty constant players. So I'd surely like to see Indiana win, but we know the NBA will surely get their hands in this one.
Yeah, taking a look now, Jeff, 5:15, 5:16 last night, which is the nightcap. I think we hit this one right on the head. You knew it. Utah was going to win this game going home. We also knew 6.5 points was just going to be too much to cover for a young Utah Jazz team. Lands 96-91 right in the middle of it. If you would have, money lined Utah, I don't know why you would actually have done that unless you were doing some massive parlay out there. But taking the points with Oklahoma City, the writing was on the wall last night. Westbrook takes 43 shots. He's a point guard. That's ridiculous. The joke common theme I like to make on Westbrook in this game.
Not ridiculous. No one else shot the ball. They were 5 for 23, George and Carmelo Anthony. No one else could make a shot. He had to shoot 43 shots.
Yeah, congratulations.
It was the most
hilarious.
By the way, it was the most hideously officiated game in the last 5 minutes I've ever seen. You gotta, if you didn't watch the end of the game, Donnie, you got it. It was awful. It was horrendous. I've never seen anything like it. And look, I had no real dog in the fight. I had the second half over, but again, it wasn't, I thought it was a great game. I thought it ended. It would have been a great ending. I urge you, Donnie, check out the last 5 minutes. It was quite amazing, really. I couldn't really believe that it had happened. Really. Listen, I know, we've talked about Westbrook. I know you're not a fan of him, but I mean, look, Donnie, explain who else was going to take the bull by the horns last night.
Well, I mean, how can the question is, how can you take the bull by the horns when the guy's the point guard bringing it up and playing hero ball every single possession out there? You can't be a point guard and shoot 43 times in a game. Nobody wants to play with you. That's capital loser. And again, the joke is Westbrook's probably waking up today, heading down to the practice arena, and has no idea that they actually lost the game last night. He got his last night, like he always gets his, like he gets his on this contract, 5 years, $200 million. They're going to be in the luxury tax next year. Paul George is going to fly to LA. But again, Steven Adams and his little, crew around there, they'll box out for him to make sure he gets triple doubles. You know what would have been interesting last night, Jeff? If his team actually said to him, Westbrook, we don't need any stats from you tonight. Let's get this victory tonight. And maybe he would have went hard. How about if he needs 10 assists or 12 assists or 16 assists or 16 rebounds to average a triple-double in the season? He gets it by the end of the first quarter. Hey, Westbrook, why don't you just play hard and at the end of the first quarter have a 20-point lead instead of worried about stats? 43 shots for your point guard in game 6. 40 or 39 shots from your point guard in game 5. The hell out of here. Guy's a career loser, great NBA player, but a career loser. I would never want to play with the guy.
We get it. You don't like Westbrook. Listen, no one else is capable of making a shot for this team. Sorry.
Nobody else has the ball to make a shot.
They shot 23 times and make 6 shots, 40, dude. What are you talking about?
43 times. The next closest guy was 6. You're the point guard. You're not the shooting guard. You're not the center down low where the ball gets dumped in. You can't be the point guard and shoot 43 times. Nobody wants to be in that game. It's the same thing as a pitcher taking an hour to throw a pitch. Everybody falls asleep out there. Nobody's engaged because hero ball's out there trying to score points. They go home again in the playoffs. $200 million for stats out there. The only guy that cares is Steven Adams. That's it.
Fair enough. Listen, at the end of the day, I thought he put it all on the court. I thought they were in a position to win the game. I thought at the end of the game, I thought the refs were really poor for their side. I really did. I thought they had an opportunity to win the game. I would watch the last 5 minutes. It wasn't. I mean, did you watch the last 5 minutes?
I didn't watch the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
The only thing I saw was the highlights coming in here. And people scream, Paul George was fouled. Get the hell out of here with your 2 for 16 ass begging for a 3 where you're jumping into somebody at the 3-point line. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Donnie, that might have been the stupidest thing you've ever said on here.
What do you mean? Paul George shooting and rubbing that. Let me shoot the 3. Let me fall back and shoot the 3 and rub into this guy over here. Dude was 2 for 16. If he was 10 for 11 from 3, give him the foul. I'm not bailing you out on your black-ass shooting night out there.
It was a blatant
Oklahoma City, get out of here. Oklahoma City, get out.
It was a blatant foul twice. Yet you're the same guy, Donnie, that throughout Allen Iverson's career, I'm sure defended.
It's not the same thing. He wasn't the point guard. He was the only guy that could get shots off. If Eric Snow came down and shot 43 times, I would kill him. You can't be a point guard and shoot 43 times. On the basketball courts in North Philadelphia, you get your ass kicked for doing that, Jeff.
What does that matter? They're not in North Philadelphia. It's an NBA game.
Basketball. You can South Jersey, North Carolina, Florida, rec ball, YMCA. The point guard shoots every time down the court. He gets his ass kicked after the game.
Listen, Donnie, Donnie, you want to make your pin on West, that's fine. But the comment on George is ridiculous. I mean, it happened twice. It wasn't just once. There were 2 different times in the last 2 minutes he was clearly fouled, and they didn't call it. Just saying. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, hey, I didn't see the last total foul. I only saw that last play out there. But I just love it. I love when you have a hot take that's been going on for like 10 years and you're proven right every single year. It's fun, Jeff. Westbrook is a loser. Every single year, Westbrook will be a loser. Imagine if you had Durant and Harden on your squad and Paul George on your squad. And you can't win Jack. The only common denominator in Oklahoma City is Westbrook's a loser. That's it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is in that game last night, no one else seemed to be able to make any shots. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. I mean, they were 5 for 23, those other 2. They gave him nothing throughout the series other than that one game in game, what was it, 5. I hear you. I'm not knocking that. All I'm saying is sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And you're right, he has lost a lot. I've agreed with you on that. It's a shame. I do still like him as a player. As a basketball player. Sometimes, he's got to do what he's got to do. But, yeah, I hear you.
No, he was angry after the game. But you're right. If you lose a game in a series, I think everybody's competitive enough. I saw the highlights at the end of the game. When you lose and you get dropped out of a series, can you? I mean, look, it's pettiness. You're supposed to be above everything, Jeff. But I'm sorry. If I'm leaving the court and I'm getting an earful in this side, and a phone here, I'm smacking the phone out of the guy's hand. Who was the guy? Was it Rodney Hood? Who was the last NBA guy that just smacked the hell out of somebody's phone right on the floor?
Rodney Hood.
Yeah, there you go. I would have done the same thing he did.
That fan was an ass. I mean, you don't do that. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do to him. Yeah. Well, look, listen, the guy. I think you're wrong in him not caring. I think he definitely cares. I do think he is a little rigid at times, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes with him. But you're right. He hasn't been able to find ways to win. And I've admitted, Donnie, he has unfortunately not been able to accept the fact that certain antics that he does just don't work in this NBA. You can't be like that anymore, and he's not willing to adhere to those things. That's why he's losing. But yeah, we'll see. They have a lot of decisions to make. Obviously, I think a coach should be decided there. I'm not sure Billy Donovan's the answer. You have to decide what they're going to do with the rest of that team. And, what do you do? I mean, nothing else has worked.
You got Melo for $30 million. That's a problem. Like, even if they brought everybody back, they're in a heavy luxury tax. And the best part about it, Jeff, is in the NBA, like, Melo has the option to come back. Is anybody think Carmelo's like, you know what? I'm going to test them free agent waters out there. He's about to get almost $30 million. He's going to be public enemy #1 in Oklahoma City next year.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a fascinating situation, but yeah, look, I mean, Utah in the second round. I'm not sure many people are too excited about that, but we'll see.
Now, we'll hit real quick NHL last night, Jeff. The Nashville Predators went down last night, Jeff, 4-1 to the Winnipeg Jets at home. Went off as maybe at Intertops -165. So a nice size favorite there. Did stay under the total. Another interesting thing, Jeff, when you look at the NHL, I know we don't follow it that much, but in the playoffs, it's big events. It's fun to watch at times. How do the two best teams, Jeff, in the NHL points-wise match up in round 2 in the NHL? Isn't the whole thing designed where the better you are, the more they want to move you along so you can advance and actually play into the conference finals and get to the Stanley Cup? The point of the NHL matching up the best teams just about every single round 2, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is doing the same thing. I mean, it's stupid 2 ways. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, the NBA is doing that. I mean, they're both kind of, I don't know why.
Like reseeding. Why don't you reseed? I don't understand the point of not reseeding. It doesn't make too much sense to me. It's not like it's the NCAA tournament where you're bracketed in and that's where you go. Like, why would you not reseed and put the best teams, against the lower level teams to give them the advantage? Because they worked all year. They're the best teams. Why are you trying to show them up round 2? Like, one of these teams, Jeff, 1 and 2 in the NHL is getting knocked out because they play each other in round 2. It's kind of hilarious on that.
I agree.
Trevor Loudon chimes in. Don't get me started on the NHL playoff format. And it's been like that for a couple years there. It doesn't make any sense. And usually in these things, you want to rig it so your best teams go further in because that's what the people want to see,
I agree.
All right, real quick on baseball last night, Jeff, till we hit the baseball card today. A couple interesting things. The Phillies continued their winning ways last night, finally knocking off the Atlanta Braves, Jeff, 7-3. Aaron Nola and Tehran struggled in the first inning. Nola was the one that settled down. Phillies pick up another victory, Jeff, and are half game back. Basically, I mean, almost tied. Both have 16 wins, the Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll see how that extends out, see how they can keep it going.
Yeah, and look, I'll give him credit. I mean, Odubel Herrera has been very good for the Phillies. I mean, he's not even just been one of their best players. He's been one of the best players in the league. I mean, he's really playing well. I mean, you got to be happy about that. 348 on the season, 4 more RBIs last night. He's hit a couple home runs. Been very good. I mean, this is exactly what you want out of El Torito, as they call him. Yeah, I like him. A good player. And they fought back. They were down 3-0. Nola, obviously gave up a couple runs. Really impressive. Phillies are playing really good baseball. It's impressive to see. You wonder how long it'll last, but yeah, very good.
Yeah, Jeff, no surprise there last night. New York Mets with Jake DeGrom, another strong outing, 5-1 victory over San Diego. And the one that was interesting last night is, Jeff, this guy in the beginning of the season was getting cracked open like a coconut nightly, and that's Tillman for Baltimore. Back-to-back really good starts. Are we in Bizarro world here?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think every once in a while he'll probably pitched pretty well. And look, Detroit's not very good. I mean, he pitched pretty well against Cleveland, I guess it was. I mean, I guess if you consider Donnie 6 innings and 4 earned runs a really good start, then I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't trust Tillman. We know that. I mean, you've pointed out yourself some of his, advanced numbers are ghastly, frankly. Yeah, I'm not sure I trust him. I don't trust them in general. They're a bad baseball team.
Yeah, I guess you got to come back to the mean at some point there. So if you're going to have a horrific, historically horrific start to your season for your career, is sooner or later you got to those stats have to even out, Jeff. One game we looked at yesterday, Oakland and the Houston Astros in this one, talked about a fading spot possibly for the A's since of how well Manaea pitched in his last outing there. The one thing we were looking at, Jeff, or I was looking at saying, why don't you take the over in the game, trying to fade the Athletics a little bit here. The game actually goes over, but the opposite of what I thought in this one. I thought Houston would possibly be able to get to the Athletics and Manaea since having a career start, maybe not as focused as a young pitcher coming back. He pitches really well. The A's roll on the road, break up the Oakland Athletics, man.
Yeah, they're a team that really, kind of, I think just gets under a lot of people's skin. I mean, I think people are starting to come around on them a bit, but I don't think people want to back Oakland on a general basis. I mean, they're not a sexy lineup, really. I think a lot of people, including ourselves last night, we kind of thought, well, Manaea, after the no-hitter, you'd probably come out and, get crushed a little bit against one of the better offenses in the league. But we've seen this with Houston. And they're going to go on these little cold streaks, but just 5 hits last night. Manaea was very good again. Manaea started to turn into a really good high-level pitcher at this level. Dallas Keuchel was the complete opposite. He was really poor. Yeah, the A's are playing well. I mean, I don't know how long it'll last, like with the Phillies, but I think people are riding this group right now, playing well.
Yeah, one more game we'll recap last night, Jeff, 977, 978. Yankees went off as a nice size favorite, opened as a nice size favorite between 155 and 160. Around game time, Jeff, Intertopside closed at 145. Chris closed at minus 138 in that game. Nice win to go out on the West Coast and beat the LA Angels for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, this one was one. Gabe Morency and we live bet this game. It was 2-1 in the 7th, and we were getting, I think he got 3-1 on the Angels. I got like 2.6-1 on the Angels, and they took the lead 3-2 and went into the bottom of the, I think it was top of the 9th, to close it out. And they gave up a run. Gardner, a couple hits and stuff, and then they blew it and gave up a Didi Gregorius run. I mean, Didi Gregorius is just on fire. This was a tough one. I mean, you had the lead going into the 9th, bullpen couldn't hold, and this is pretty much the difference, frankly, between these two teams. Yankees have a pretty good bullpen, and most of the time are going to get the job done. Angels, kind of a shaky one, and they end up losing. Tough one.
We'll take a look real quick before we get to that MLB card, Jeff. 2 games on the slate today, Pelicans and the Warriors and the Bucks and Celtics. Interesting one that we're interested at here in Philadelphia, Jeff, because we're sitting at home waiting for the winner of the Bucks and Celtics game. It looks like Pinnacle opens up 4.5. Chris opens up 4.5. Sitting around 5, 4.5, depending where he's shopping. It looks like more of a defensive battle here as they show a 195, which seems like, Jeff, a rarity in NBA playoffs these days because the Pelicans and the Warriors are sitting at 224.5. Of these 2 games, Warriors opening up here minus 9-point favorites after jumping up on the opening line, minus 7.5, so some good movement there. Not much movement, Jeff, so far in this Boston Celtics game. If I'm looking from a covering perspective, if Steph Curry actually comes back tonight, Jeff, for the Golden State Warriors, do you think that has an effect? I mean, I don't want to say it's going to propel them like, oh, yes, we finally get Steph back. But sometimes when you're trying to rework back and reintegrate into the team, sometimes you're forced it a little bit to try to get him back involved since he's been out so long. Is that a detriment there if we're taking a look at a 9-point line in that Golden State Warriors line?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to look at this game like, most bettors do and say, whoa, I'm getting 9 points with the Pelicans here. I mean, they just beat Portland and swept them. Yeah. I got to take Golden State didn't look that good. I think this is a good old Oracle blowout. That kind of looks that way to me. Look, Steph Curry, I mean, if he comes back, I mean, he's only going to help you. I mean, it's the Warriors. I mean, he's only going to help you, obviously with the 3-point shot. And look, I don't know. We'll have to see if he comes back. But I do kind of look at this line, and it is a bit scary. I mean, frankly, the line doesn't make a ton of sense. Pelicans have played very well lately. Golden State struggled a bit at times against a pretty poor Spurs team, frankly. It kind of looks like a bit of a trap. To me, this looks like a Warrior line, Donnie.
Yeah, both late games tonight too, Jeff. 1:08:05, 1:10:30. If we do a quick peek at that Bucks Celtics game, Jeff, as we said, opened up 4.5 at this point. Just seems like this is a home series between both of these two guys. You come home, Boston seems like the better team. You go on the road, Milwaukee's the better team. I just think Milwaukee's young at this point, even though I think they're more talented overall than the Boston Celtics. It's hard for a young team to go into a game 7 in a hostile environment and pull out the victory. I think the Celtics, I don't know about the point spread itself. I would lean maybe another one of those close ones, but I think the Celtics will pull this one out just because they have the edge being at home here, Jeff, in Game 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think coaching will be a major difference in this game. You got one side, a guy that, frankly, just he's not going to be a coach long term there, and then you got a guy in Stevens who's one of the great young coaches in basketball. Listen, I said it the other day. I would literally let Antetokounmpo do whatever he wants. Let him score 60 points. No one else is going to beat you on this team. Boston's just a much better team. I don't see any way they don't win. As far as this number, it's a tough one. I'd probably just lean under. Last 2 games have gotten nowhere close. After 9 out of 10 overs for each team, 2 straight unders. This, I would imagine, Donnie, will be a really big-time defensive battle. Possessions will be at a premium, probably a 97-90 type of game. I'd probably just go under the number.
I see some people out there, Jeff, talking soccer. Is any soccer you want to get into real quick before you hit this Major League Baseball card? Anything popping out there?
No, I'll probably, kind of evaluate it later. I know it funny, Donnie, interestingly enough, a lot of the matches I have, I was actually down 1-0 in. I need some help. Look, it's the end of the season in football right now. A lot of teams are trying to squirm. Bad teams are squirming to try to get results. No, not really. I'm kind of just trying to keep my head above water today with some of these matches. A lot of them I'm down 1-0 and I need some late help here.
All right, here we go, Jeff. Major League Baseball, let's get it on. Eyes wide open in this one. Some afternoon action, some night action. Why don't we dip right in? We'll go continuously right down the line in rotation, try to get to as many of these games as possible, Jeff. 9:01, 9:02, we have Junior Guerra on the mound versus Quintana, the lefty. If we take a look, about 3,000 tickets have been tracked in this one. Pinnacle line opened up, Jeff, at -152. Chris at -155. If we take a look now, Pinnacle at 164. Chris at 161 in this, despite 59% of the tickets, Jeff, coming in backing Guerra. Guerra's been good. Same MO, Jeff, as last year for him. Looks like 3 starts there, 0.56 ERA, a 1 whip against Quintana, who's really struggled, Jeff, an ERA close to 8 in this one. Now you're looking at Pinnacle, as I said, opened up at 52. Now since it's 64, the better pitcher on one side, but the money, Jeff, coming in on the Cubbies.
Yeah, and Junior Guerra, 9 1/3, 0 earned runs over against the Cubs over his last 2 starts. You look at yesterday, just a hard-fought game. I thought Milwaukee had a real opportunity. It passed them by. But, Milwaukee's a good lineup. They have a lot of high-level players, good group. And, look, I'm going to go with Guerra. I'm going to go with the way he's been playing. I'm going to go with I'm going to take the 140-ish. I think it's a great price for him. Quintana, like you mentioned, has struggled. It's Wrigley Field. You never know there. I don't have a ton on this game as far as from a statistical perspective. I'm going to just kind of ride the hot pitcher. I've been a fan of Guerra really since he came into the league. He had a run, when he first came in where he was really effective. He's really been effective since. I'm not overly impressed with the Cubs lineup. I've talked about that before. They do hit righties pretty well, but Guerra's an interesting righty, a guy that's had a lot of success against them. I think it's a pretty nice price in Milwaukee here. Kind of in the middle of a series game against a pitcher that's been struggling. I'll take a shot with the Brewers.
Yeah, Jeff, stranding close to 90% of base runners there for Junior Guerra to start the season. And I know it's kind of interesting to see, Jeff, whenever you pop up, you see, wait a second, afternoon game at Wrigley, it's going to be sunny out there. An over-under of 7. Well, that's right. Just as much as the wind can blow out heavily at Wrigley, Jeff, it can come in the opposite way. It looks like 15, 16 mile-an-hour winds blowing in could possibly keep some of those bloop home run balls in the yard there. But it always is interesting, Jeff, to see a 7 out there in Chicago.
Oh yeah, no, it's always concerning. I mean, 7 in baseball, you don't see that much anymore. You only see that when you see Scherzer and Kershaw, those kind of guys. Hey Donnie, by the way, breaking
Yeah.
news. This is breaking
Break it. Go.
straight from the
Go.
horse's mouth. Mike Dahm will be returning to South Dakota State. He has
Good.
pulled his name from the NBA draft. Tweeting out a few minutes ago, "I'm back." Hashtag Go Jacks.
I like it. I like the move there. Yeah. Going to come back because sometimes, Jeff, when you look at him, he's going to do stuff that's going to, get in the NCAA record books for a long time. He can wait another year, get your degree. I don't know, he probably already has his degree up there, but I think there's better for him, Jeff, to stay in NCAA, get all those records down, head to the NBA, and we'll see what happens in that. But I think that's a good move. How about you?
I love Mike Dahm. I do think he would really benefit for another year at South Dakota State. He has just strictly gotten better, Donnie, as his career has went on. He's becoming and getting towards historic territory, Donnie, as far as numbers. The only other player to put up the number that he's had, Kevin Durant. I mean, this is a truly transcending player at the college level. We'll see if he's able to transit. I, for one, think he's more of a European player, just my opinion. But for me, I'm excited to see Dom. I look forward to Summit League Wednesdays and Thursdays. Very exciting times.
9:03, 9:04, another afternoon game. Jeff, Arizona and Washington going to take the Diamond. Corbin, the lefty, versus Hellickson. 60% of the early tickets, Jeff, lining up on the road team, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And why not when you take a look at some early statistics there? Corbin, Jeff, through 5 games, 4-0. Team's overall record is 4-1, a 1.89 ERA, a whip, Jeff, at 0.6. 0.6. He's putting about a half a runner on base. It's hard enough to score as it is. And if nobody's on the base, it makes it that much more. Versus Jeremy Hellickson, Jeff, through his 2 starts on the season, a 4.5 ERA, a 1.3 whip. If we take a look at some line numbers out there, not much line movement, though. But Chris, Jeff, did open up at 125, now sits at 138. So some line movement going in Arizona's direction. Over under 8 across the board in this one, Jeff. Corbin coming in hot.
Yeah, but here's a bit of a concern with Corbin, okay? So they're laying 140 on the road against the Nats, okay? First of all, keep in mind, Arizona has not hit the baseball well. I mean, they're not a good offense right now. I mean, all season. They're only hitting about 229. Against righties, it dips down to 221. They've been in these games because of their pitching. The pitching's been fantastic. Opponent batting average is 218. They've just done a fantastic job. Here's the concern with Corbin. He's been masterful. But only 1 road start, and, he wasn't great. I mean, he's average, 5 1/3, give up 5 hits and 3 earned runs, 2 walks, did have 9 strikeouts. You would think he can handle this lineup, but I don't really have a lot of interest in laying 140 in a game like this. I think, Donnie, this show's important because my goal is to just try to look into the lines and explain why I wouldn't do it. Whether you do it, we use the show as kind of a reference point. If you want to do it, do it. I'm just a bit concerned. I won't be surprised if Corbin pitches well. This is not a great Nationals lineup, but a lot of his starts have been at home. He's now on the road. I mean, it's nice weather. It shouldn't be a big factor, but there is a bit of he could be one of those home road dichotomy type of pitchers. Robbie Ray was that last year. And look, you have a bullpen that's, pretty good, and they should be able to rescue and keep you in the game and not blow it. They have to hope that they get good pitching because their lineup overall has not been particularly strong. Just a bit too high for me. If it's 110, 120, I would do it. But at 140, that's just too much juice to lay on Corbin, who's been frankly unproven on the road, more of a home guy.
Yeah, no, looking at, he's had some interesting stats to start the season, Jeff. His K percentage, almost 40%. You're looking at roughly, if you just, round up, half of the batters that come up to the plate are striking out versus him, walks under 5% with batters. And even, Jeff, if you do, try to have some success, a 138 average, balls in play, if you do make contact at 200, what a great start to the season. Hellickson hasn't been that bad overall numbers-wise, but you're expecting, can Corbin keep this going? It looks like he's been keeping it up as is at this point here, Jeff. Next up on the docket, 905, 906, Atlanta and Philadelphia, Fultonavich and Pivetta, 57% of the early tickets, Jeff, coming in on the hometown Philadelphia Phillies. Line opened up at 131 at Pinnacle, sits at 133. Chris opens up a little bit higher at 140, and that's dipped back to minus 136 across the board, Jeff, 8.5. If you look at some early numbers on there, Fultonavich, his team starts, Jeff, 1-4 in his starts out there. He himself is 1-1, 2.77 ERA, doing some very good work. Pivetta out there, Jeff, team record through his starts, 5-0 at a 2.57. Two pitchers looking decent. Two young guys looking decent there out on the mound today in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'd probably lean with Pivetta just because he has been stronger. I like the Phillies at home. I like their lineup right now. Atlanta's been hitting the baseball. They've been doing a nice job, but I don't know that I trust Fultonavich like I trust. It's amazing that I actually trust Pivetta. But you look at his 5 starts. They've won all 5 of his starts. He's only given up 1 home run in 28 innings, which is really something you like. Look, his base, overall, he's been very good. I mean, there's not a lot to say bad about Nick Pivetta. You just got to hope that he can, kind of go deep in a game. Give me 6 innings. The bullpen's actually been pretty good. And I know Pat Neshek has been throwing some sessions as well. So he should be back at some point. You look at it in 47 and a third innings, Donnie, with this bullpen at home, 1.71 ERA. They've only blown 1 save. They've been really good. The Phillies, you got to wonder how long this is going to go for, but you got to ride it how it's happened. And, the Atlanta Braves have a young lineup. They have, a lot of pieces to like, but for me, I just trust the Phillies a little bit more. I don't think it's a bad price, especially with the way Pavetta's been pitching. And, Donnie, you look at that bullpen for Atlanta, again, one of their major issues. That's one of their problems. I think Philadelphia will win this game. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, Philly's been good all year at home, Jeff. And again, you're getting a decent price in there. You're not going to pay 150, 160 at this point. Fultonavich, as we've seen, when he gets it rolling with that fastball, he's very good, but a little bit of a hothead. When things don't go his way out on the mound, he clearly pouts, doesn't get the strikeout call, can get into his head there. I do lean Philadelphia Phillies as well. Keep it moving down the list, Jeff. 907, 908. Flaherty and Williams are going to match up here in a divisional battle. 50-50 ticket split. Always nice to see that. Line opened up at Pinnacle at 109, opened up at Chris at -110, but now it's shifted to a favorite, Jeff, of the St. Louis Cardinals here on the road. Flaherty had a nice start to open the season, 1.80 ERA, 1.4 whip, but Williams been very good, Jeff, a 2.15 ERA and a whip of 1.59. So you're getting actual dog here in Pittsburgh if you go that route. Over under, Jeff, 8 across the board here for this NL Central battle.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is cooled off a bit. I mean, obviously that 4-game losing streak at Philadelphia didn't help. But, Cardinals are real high in Jack Flaherty. He's their number 2 prospect. He's young. He throws hard. He was really good in that first outing. And look, Trevor Williams has been good as well. Two kind of unproven guys. Not a ton of tape on these two. They're two real young. They're both real young. They're both going to be good probably at the next level. We're going to see them for years to come. I don't have a lot of luck with the Cardinals, so I'm just going to kind of avoid this game. Just kind of not a lot to go on here. Not a lot of trends are really going on for me. But I think the one trend that is important to mention, I mean, in 3 starts this year against St. Louis, Trevor Williams was horrendous. So, obviously a lot of kind of veteran hitters on that team mixed with a good group of young guys. I mean, you look at overall though, Donnie, when you have a team with Ozuna and Molina, Matt Carpenter, Fowler, all these guys, these are good hitters. He's been in the league a long time. They've seen guys like this. They feasted on him last year. I don't really see a reason that it'll change this year. I'm going to go with the young kid, Flaherty. I mean, he was good in his first start. No real tape on him at this level other than that start. I lean Cardinals here. Williams, I just don't like him against this Cardinal team.
909, 910, Jeff. We're not looking at too much of a pitching matchup in this one based on the numbers that are coming out. German Marquez versus Smith, the lefty from Miami. 66% of the tickets lining up on the Rockies. That's going to be the case every single day, it seems like, going against the Miami Marlins. But, Jeff, how about this one? 144 Colorado opens up at Pinnacle. 150 they open up at Chris. These numbers right now across the board: Pinnacle 114, Chris 118, Intertops 115, Bet Online -114. Massive slide with only 34% of those tickets, Chefs, on the Miami Marlins. Should be an interesting one. If we get a look at some interesting stats here, let me just pull up a few things here on Caleb Smith. The thing that sticks out the most, Jeff, a 17.4% K to walks. Walks 15% of his guys that come up to the plate. Doesn't hold very many guys on. As you've seen over the years, if you're going to walk guys and put them on base, eventually they're going to score. But, Jeff, this is one of those false flags that we like to look at last year coming up here with the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, this is, again, I mean, we talked about it. You talked about it last year. You're going to have to get down with some bad baseball teams. And once in a while, actually, a lot of the time, probably going to have to be the Marlins. I mean, look, I don't really want to back Colorado. I mean, they don't hit on the road. They're hitting, 214 on the road, or 211 on the road. they're not great against lefties. Look, Caleb Smith's not a guy I'm really in love with, but he has been good at home, throughout his 10 innings that he's been at home. Look, Miami, I'm not going to try to sell you on them. This is really just, like you said, Donnie, why is the line going down? I mean, no one's betting Miami. The public's made it clear they don't like Miami. No one wants to back them. They're the worst team in the history of the world, that kind of stuff. They're going to lose 300 games, even though there's only 160 games in the season. Look, they're going to win 65 games. It's just baseball, just how it goes. Look, Herman Marquez, not a great pitcher. They're not good on the road. I think you just got to go Miami here.
9-11, 9-12, Jeff. Let's welcome Jason Vargas to Major League Baseball for the New York Mets. The lefty will take the mound, but also the, what we call it, like the five fingers here, maybe a little Godfather action coming in with Lucchesi crime family on the mound all at one time here. 73% of the tickets, Jeff, lining up on the Mets in this one. Line opened up at 117 for San Diego, Jeff, at Pinnacle, 110 at Chris. That line now sits at 136, 137 across the board. The crime family, Lucchesi, getting that action here. Jeff, maybe people just looking for a fade on Vargas to start the season. Obviously, you know that's going to be the first time he touches the mound. Lucchesi, Jeff, through his team's 5 starts, 2.70 ERA. The kid's been good, but as always with the Padres, Jeff, can we get some run support here?
Yeah, that's the big thing. And I think if you're a Met fan, you got to, you're really hoping Jason Vargas comes out and gives you some good innings. I mean, you need him to be that kind of fifth starter, especially with Matt Harvey's issues. Look, San Diego, I like Lucchesi a lot, but there's nothing really else to like about St. Louis, or not San Diego. Keep in mind, Donnie, Lucchesi luckily doesn't spell his name like the other Lucchesis. They spell with an E at the end. He's supposed to with an I, luckily. But, I don't know with Vargas. He's always a pretty good 4th to 5th starter, but he is coming off that injury. He did throw almost 70 pitches in a rehab start, but he's an old guy. He's coming off an injury against a good, hot, young pitcher. 2 offenses right now that are struggling a bit. I'm not going to try to sell you a bill of goods that they aren't, but that's a Padre, norm. I mean, they always struggle. Maybe an under. I think an under might be worth a look here. You just got to hope you can get 5 or 6 good innings out of Vargas. But overall, I'm not in love with this one. Pass for me.
No, you're right. If you take a look, Jeff, 9-13, 9-14, we're talking about unders here. 2 good pitchers coming in. Alex Wood, the lefty, versus Johnny Cueto, the righty on the mound. 76% of those early tickets, Jeff, coming in on the home team, the San Francisco Giants, but not a lot of line movement, Jeff, on that line. Opened up at 117 at Pinnacle, currently sits at 117. Chris at 116, Intertops -119. Bet online at -118. Over under 7 across the board. We're actually showing a 6.5, Jeff, showing up at Chris at this point. And why not? If we take a look at some early numbers, through 5 games that Woods pitched, 3.72 ERA, a whip of under 1. And then look at Cueto, Jeff, through his 4 games, 0.35 ERA, and his whip is at 0.6. Not many base runners, Jeff, usually means what? Not many runs scored, and they're playing in a big cavernous ballpark out there at AT&T in San Francisco. This should be a really good pitching matchup. I might just take a flyer right now in San Francisco as the dog at home with Cueto on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get involved with this just because it is a doubleheader. I don't know what happened in the first matchup. I think that's obviously stringent on the outcome there. Obviously in the first matchup, not as good as a pitching matchup. Stratton against Buehler, Walker Buehler. I think with Cueto, obviously, I want to see what happens in the first matchup, see what the lineups are. But Cueto's been really good. I mean, looks like vintage Johnny Cueto, Donnie. How about that? He's 13 in the scoreless streak. Looks great. 23 strikeouts. I think whenever I can get Cueto as an underdog right now against a struggling Dodger team, I'm probably going to go with them. But I think it is important to see what happens in the first matchup, who's sitting in the second. Doubleheaders are tough to gauge because you don't want to be the guy that bets the second game and there's 2 or 3 guys out that you really want in when you could have just waited and hung around. So I'm going to skip these 2.
All right, Jeff, keep it moving down the list. 9-15, 9-16,
hey, Donnie.
Tampa Bay and Boston. Yeah, what's up, man?
Anthony Sarro. Donnie, can you address how dumb it was saying it was a blessing to the Eagles for the Giants to draft Saquon Barkley? This guy actually DM me or something about this. He wanted me to ask you, but I guess he caught you on the chat.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you have to ask that question, you don't really understand fully the game of the National Football League and how it's played and how you actually win in the NFL. You win with great quarterback play. Everything else is just secondary. I like the fact that outside, look, Saquon Barkley's a good player. When you draft Saquon Barkley, Jeff, does he make your team better? Absolutely, he makes your team better. But you draft at number 2 for a reason in the NFL. It's because your team sucks at quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you will not win in the NFL. Eli Manning is an ancient man who should be put out the pasture at this point, who's going to probably throw 25 interceptions again yesterday. If you want the ball in Saquon's hands, you have to get another quarterback in there that's going to grow with Saquon Barkley. If you're relying on old man, turnover-prone Eli Manning out there in the NFC East, they're not going to win anything. And coming from an Eagles fan perspective, you want them to restart the clock. Say what you want about Eli. He was a pretty good quarterback coming into the NFL through his earlier years. When they drafted Eli Manning, when they sucked last time in the top 5 and were able to swing a trade from Phillip Rivers to Eli Manning, that propelled the Giants to 2 Super Bowls. I've never seen a running back get drafted to a football team and get them ready to win multiple Super Bowls. Running backs are nice. They're flashy toys out there. Probably in 3 to 4 years, they're going to use them so much he might even be broken down at that point. You win in the NFL by getting a quarterback. If my arch rival New York Giants decide to go pass on a quarterback at the one time they should be taking a quarterback, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you raise a glass and say thank you for being stupid and taking the running back at number 2.
Well said.
Yeah, that's it. All right, you want to get back to some baseball action here?
Yeah. I will say I do like what they did in the draft so far. I will say.
No, yeah, look, the Giants got better in the draft. Nobody's ever going to say they're not going to do that. You just don't take a running back 2 when you have good quarterbacks on the board that could be your franchise guy. That's all I'm saying. I like their picks. I like the picks that they have. I just don't like getting running back at number 2.
According to Dave Gettleman, he said that the only way you take a running back, you have to think they're Hall of Famers. Anyone you take in that, that spot. Listen, I mean, do I think he's a Hall of Famer? I don't know. How would I know? But I think they think that, Eli Manning, how old is Eli Manning at this point?
38, 39? I think he's 38 this year.
37.
Football season. Yep, go ahead.
So is it feasible to say he might have 2 or 3 years at maybe? Yeah.
What? Yeah, but he's not even at a high level. He's not 2 or 3 years at Tom Brady, or he's not 2 or 3 years at Drew Brees. You can get away with it. He's at the end of a road where he's awful.
I think it is important to mention. And look, I'm much higher on him in his career on him than Donnie is. I think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. I just do. The Super Bowls and that kind of thing speak for themselves. We have to remember last year, he had literally no one to throw to most of the season. I think that's important. The offensive line was poor. I mean, you go out and get, one of the better run blockers in the draft. You go out and get Nate Solder. That left side, Donnie, all of a sudden, that blind side, taken care of. I mean, Nate Solder and Will Hernandez, that's a good group on the left. The problem is the right side enough? Is John Jerry and Eric Flowers, they're going to get that done? I think they need to look that way in the 4th round, try to get something. I mean, now you're getting into the draft where you're really taking flyers on players. But I think the rest of the draft's been very good. B.J. Hill, nice little defensive end to kind of learn behind, some of those guys, Olivier Vernon and Kareem Martin and those kind of players. They went out and got Ogletree. They went out and get Lorenzo Carter, who I had as a high, mid-second round talent. And you get Barkley as well. I like what they've done. They're getting there. We have to remember there was not a lot to like about this team last year, really at any level.
No, I completely agree. I like if you're looking at the picks overall for the Giants, and look, we can always talk NFL all day long. I love it. But the Giants did get better yesterday. There's no question about it. Just the disagreement on taking a running back at number 2 when you had, and again, also, what compounded that issue for me, Jeff? If it came out and said, you know what, boy, if Darnold fell to us at 2, we would have loved it. But, Darnell was always the number 1 pick. He was going to go number 1. We went running back at number 2. But the simple fact that the compounded by Mayfield went 1, which left you with the cream of the crop on the board at quarterback, and you still went running back overall at number 2, was just a baffling scenario. But he's a good football player. He's going to be a good football player. He's going to have his mark on the NFL. But you don't win in the NFL with a running back. Straight up. Running backs do help you win games if you have a quarterback that can help propel you along. If you're set and you're learning there and you do have a good running back, that's an unbelievable thing to have as you go along. Brian Westbrook, Shady McCoy, we've seen it in Philadelphia. Running backs can make a difference, but you're not going to win unless you have that franchise quarterback, and Eli Manning's an old man at this point. That's the only issue.
Yeah, I guess the only thing for them is maybe they didn't think that there was anyone in the draft that was that kind of player. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, who knows? I think they're going to be obviously clearly way better. But I think the one concern is the quarterback position. But look, I like it. I love Barkley. Thought he was a transcendent player. I would have went with him there. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, no, it's the clear move to do. It's fun. I mean, hey, everybody likes to have a new added playmaker and a new toy on their offense. It'd be a lot of fun for anybody out there. But when you're thinking short term in that instance, I don't like it there. I love the second round pick where you picked up the offensive lineman. That's going to shore up that line. If you would have put Pop Darnold in there as an Eagles fan, I'd be like, you know what? Shit. Giants are coming in a couple years, man. They're going to be ready to go. But you just set back the process. Eli's only getting older and worse. And again, you're not winning with a quarterback right now the way Eli Manning plays. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing you have to mention is it's not like he's coming from a university that's had a ton of success with running backs. I mean, many have failed, and a lot of them. I heard Kajana Carter was the next Bo Jackson. I heard, we've heard all this stuff. Let the guy go out and play. Stop with the Hall of Fame shoe and stuff. Stop with that. I know you're excited. But let's let the kid play. I agree. I think he's a great player. I think he's the best player in the draft, but let's let him play on the field first.
Yeah, no, it should be fun this year. And again, the NFL didn't do the Giants any favor. Their first 8 games is one of the worst 8-game stretches I've ever seen. So they might be behind the ball playing Davis Webb by week 4 or 5 anyway to see if that's what they have behind. Who knows if Gettleman even likes Davis Webb at this point, Jeff? We sort of laughed at that draft pick last year, seeing how he wasn't ready to be in the NFL. But maybe they can coach him up and see if it's serviceable
Best
out there.
Best comment of the day from I just got into this chat, Donnie. It wasn't loading for me. Jeremy Solo, best comment of the day.
What is it?
Can we talk about baseball?
Yeah, of course we can.
By the way, Luton just scored. Thank fucking God. I'm looking at an offer, but Luton scoring is big. Come on. Now come on, Aston Villa. Give me a late goal here. Wow, pallet. Donnie, I'm going to tell you something right now. I want to make this clear. Every person on this chat right now, I want you to look into the camera. All right.
I'm looking.
We have the Premier League punters, and if you do well, I'm going to give you respect. I will. If you prove to me you are really good and you have inside information, I'm going to put you the fuck on. Okay? I've killed it on that show this year. Flash Watson, he hasn't. He's not had a good year. He'll tell you that himself. Yeah. But when I tell you there is no more valuable human being on earth for information, it's him. Flash Watson is a transcendent human being in my life, and I'm glad to know him. This is a guy, Donnie, okay? He played in the Premier League for many years. Yeah. He comes to us last week. Actually, he came to me at the middle of the season and said, listen, Leicester City doesn't care about Premier League. They want to win the FA Cup. I bet him like 3 or 4 straight weeks they won. He gave me inside information from their chairman that they wanted the FA Cup bad. Then he comes to me and us a couple weeks ago and says, listen, Leicester hates their manager. They want him canned. Fade Leicester. They've been losing like crazy. Today they're down 5-0. If that's not a statement of that coach and their feelings on that coach, I don't know what is. I mean, you're down 5-0, Donnie, to Palace, a team that was relegation candidates 2 weeks ago. If that's not good information, I don't know what it is. Flash Watson is a gem. He's a gift. He's a great guy, and I'm happy to know him because he's told me a lot about football betting. He's really made me think about things. I love his opinions on, game-like things, what really matters. Donnie, I've asked him, does this emotion stuff, does any of that matter? No, they don't care about that. None of it matters. He's a gem. What great information.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And we'll get back to baseball now. The only last thing I want to leave on the Giants point is, Jeff, how good a quarterback are you if you get benched for Geno Smith midway through the season? So let's get to 9:15, 9:16, Tampa Bay and Boston. Chirinos and Price, Jeff, 77% of the tickets going to line up on Boston today. Why not? Boston lost yesterday to Tampa Bay as a decent-sized favorite. They're going to open up again as a nice favorite, -210, -215, 205, it looks like, Jeff, across the board, over-under. Now some 9s showing up out here. If we take a look at some early stat lines here, Chirinos, Jeff, through his 4 starts, 3.48 ERA. David Price through his 5 starts, 2.93 ERA. So on paper, it looks like an even matchup if you take off the names on the back of the jersey. Heavy price for Boston here today, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, but, that's what they're garnering nowadays. David Price has had a nice season. I mean, shout out to Ian Cameron. Ian Cameron was very much keyed in last night on the Tampa Bay Rays. I know on his free pick video, Ian Cameron took Tampa Bay last night. Took him on the money line. Took him on the run line, I believe, as well. Great call by him. He had the keyed in. This one a little different. Obviously, though, Boston not hitting the baseball right now. Big Price here. Is David Price, is he going to keep up his, high-level pitching? He's kind of hit a shaky patch a little bit lately. I don't lay 205. Not really looking to lay the run line right now with Boston. So for me, it's going to be a hard pass.
9-17, 9-18, Texas, Toronto. Bartolo Colon, fresh off of getting hammered versus Garcia on the mound. 63% of those tickets, Jeff, lining up for the Toronto Blue Jays. Opened up at 161 there at Pinnacle. Now at 174. Chris opens up at 65. Now sits at 61. 9 across the board, Jeff. We take a look. Bartolo Colon through his 3 starts. ERA good, 2.79, because he did have a couple good starts mixed in there. Garcia, 4 starts out there, Jeff. ERA 4.57. Whip of 1.4 in this one today.
Yeah, as far as this one's concerned, look, I'm not laying 170 with Toronto. Colon has had these starts where he's just kind of good. Frankly, Jamie Garcia. He for a while when he was with St. Louis, I always like to back him and I always like to be on him. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I would take a shot maybe with Texas. They do have the ability in that lineup. They're not a great road team, but they, have hit lefties considerably well for the most part. I don't know. Big price like this, I'm not laying it with Toronto. I would only take it with Texas.
All right, we'll take a look, Jeff. 9-19, 9-20. Mike Lee, Carlos Carrasco, 65% of the tickets lining up for the Indians here. Jeff, heavy price, opens up at 235 at Chris. That now sits at 228. Chris opened up at 240. That now sits at 230. 7.5, it looks like, across the board. Mike Lee roughed up early in the season, 6.5 ERA. Carlos Carrasco coming into the game, pitching well through 5 starts. Teams 4-1, 2.31 ERA, a whip under 1. Clear favorite here for us with Cleveland. Sometimes you get wrapped up in that angle, though. Mike Lee, when he's off, is a very easy pitcher to hit, but sometimes, Jeff, we've seen a lot. Those Indian bats like to go silent. If you look last night, Kluber, which you would have thought that run line would have won easy, 6-5 fine on this one. What are you looking at Cleveland Indians today versus the Seattle Mariners?
I'm going to come out and say this. I think Carlos Carrasco is one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah.
And I mean that. Here's the only problem that I have with this game. Mike Leake has gotten crushed lately. But you look at Carrasco's latest 2 starts, Donnie. 2-1, 2-1. Mm-hmm. I love the run line here. But this Indians team, time and time again, has just not been able to string offensive success together. They played well for the most part. They won, I think, 4 of 6. They're playing some good baseball. But you look at the last couple wins. The last couple of games. At times they do struggle to score runs. Right now, not a bad time to back them. I don't see any reason. I think Cleveland might be the best player on the board. As long as they can string a couple runs, Carrasco's not going to get hurt. Carrasco just murders it every time he pitches. If you can kind of tell me and sell to me a better pitcher right now, other than maybe Sale and some of these others, Carrasco's really good, man. He is. Wasn't he in the Phillies organization, Donnie, at one point?
I think way back he was. Yes, as a young arm.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely weak scouting by them.
Did he probably? When he actually probably went back to, Jeff, when he was young, maybe a single-A talent, or still well, and just starting his minor league career. Maybe that Cliff Lee trade with Cleveland.
I want to say. I want to say this. I do know that I think it was like around when I was like graduating high school, like back 2007, 2008. I think he was involved with it. Yeah, it was Phillies traded Carrasco along with Jason Donald, Marson, and Knapp to the Indians for Cliff Lee and Ben Francisco. Okay. So, yeah, he was with him for a couple of years. He's an undrafted free agent, pitched at Lakewood and Double-A Reading and Clearwater.
Yeah, no, it's a definitely interesting one there. 921, 922, Liriana, Cashner, Jeff. If you can't hit, yesterday, Tillman, now you get Cashner on the mound today. We'll see if they can lump him up a little bit. 52% of the tickets backing the Orioles at home in Camden Yards. Line opened up at 108 at Pinnacle. Now sits at 139. Good line movement there. Chris opened up at 110. That sits at 139. Money coming in on the Baltimore Orioles today, Jeff, at home. Over under 9. It sits across the board if you take a look at some numbers. Liriano, 3.13 ERA. Cashner, 3.60. Always a good method in the past, Jeff, has been, back the Orioles at home with a decent price. We'll see if they can bounce back and maybe pull out another victory today on the mound with Cashner.
Yeah, I thought Cashner last year was the comeback player of the year. I thought he had a great season. But, move teams, who knows how it'll be. These are just 2 really middle-of-the-road pitchers in baseball. Not a game that I feel there's much edge on. Both teams are pretty poor. I guess you look at, like, potential. I guess it's the Orioles. But, do you really want to lay 140 with them right now? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm good.
923, 924. Oakland back at the scene of the crime last night, picking up an easy victory over Dallas Keuchel and the Houston Astros. Mengden McCullers sale line up 67% of the tickets coming in on the Astros to start. Jeff Pinnacle opened up at -180. That's now over 2-1 at -207. Chris at -210. Intertops -210. 2-1 favorite here. The Houston Astros looking to snap back and bounce back. 9, it looks like, sitting as an over-under across the board. Mengden coming in with 3.86 ERA. McCullers coming in 4.67. Can he get right and get a victory back for the Astros today down in Minute Maid?
Yeah, Mengden off 2 good starts, both at home, though. Now he's on the road. In his one road start this year, wasn't particularly strong. Most of the time, Mengden is a total mug, and you can hit him. But, I mean, McCullers, I just think McCullers is an average guy right now for them. I'm not blown away, but he has pitched well lately. 13 innings, 2 earned runs over his last 2. Those are on the road. Now he's back at home, which at home he's been just average. I don't lay these kind of prices, so therefore I'm not on this one. I would avoid this one. Astros should win, but Mengden was mystifying the Red Sox last time he pitched, I believe. So I'm good on this one.
Jeff, I have nothing on my odds board here next. 925, 926, the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. Do you have any updated numbers on your odds board for this one?
No. It's Skoglund again, and I don't know who's pitching for this is a doubleheader as well. So
yeah, that's why. Yeah, so we'll pass by that one. Let's get to the 927, 928. Yankees and Angels in a rematch from last night. 2,600 tickets have been tracked, Jeff. Almost 60% of those tickets going to go with Tanaka on the road versus Richards. A decent pitching matchup if you look on paper here. And right across the board, Jeff, looking at a pick'em over-under seems to be settling in at 7.5. Tanaka, nice bounce back, though, even though he hasn't started the season so well. 5.28 ERA. If we look at Garrett Richards, 3.46 ERA. 2 pitchers looking to get back in track and stay online in this one. But a good matchup. Should be a nice late night battle there at 9:07 that we can tune into. If we're looking at both of these numbers right now, I just like the Yankees bats a little bit more, Jeff, than I do like the Angels bats. I think they can keep the mojo going. I'll take the Yankees here at a short price because they're never really at this short of a price.
No, you're right. And I agree with you. I mean, they've won, 7 in a row. Playing great baseball. They're only 3 games back all of a sudden in the AL East. This is kind of the run they needed to go on. And look, the Angels are starting to come back to earth. I mean, I'll continue to shout at our friend, this thing we do, who mentioned, look, I mean, you play Oakland and all these bad teams to start the season, and you play well, Kansas City, now then you play – I mean, Donnie, you look at the last stretch. I mean, you play Boston, the Giants, and Houston. Now you're starting to come back to earth a bit. Otani's not, garnering the same attention he was. And look, Tanaka's off a good start. This is a big start for him. He needs to come out and put together 3, 4, 5 good starts in a row. He seems to always do this where he'll pitch well, and then he'll have 2 straight games where he gives up 6 earned runs. Big start for him. We need him to pitch well on the road here.
All right, 929, 930, Sal Romano versus Odorizzi, Cincinnati and Minnesota. Cincinnati, Jeff, picked up a miracle victory. It seems like every time they win, I'm going to call it a miracle there because, quite frankly, it's astonishing that they do win ball games. 77% of the tickets, Jeff, coming in on Odorizzi and the Minnesota Twins. Line opened up at 131. Now sits at 146, 149 at Chris, 150 at Intertops, 145 at BetOnline across the board. Looking at 9.5, so we're expecting some runs in this battle. Romano at 4.44 ERA, Odorizzi 4.50 ERA. Sometimes, you just look and say, if you just want to fade Minnesota at home, they're not playing all that well. But again, you're looking at the Reds here. I just can't take the Reds until I see the total picture from them. But they did bust out with some bats yesterday for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati, man. I mean, what a just a disease group. You're right. I mean, they're not pitching or playing well right now, but Odorizzi obviously gives you a little bit more confidence in Sal Romano. I like Minnesota's lineup. I mean, I think on potential alone, I would just take Minnesota, but it's hard to lay 150 right now with them. Look, if I know some people bet parlays, I mean, maybe throwing them in with something else. I don't think they'll lose. Probably a good pick, but I'm not really looking to lay 150 right now with a team like the Minnesota Twins. I do think they'll win, though. It's a tough one, though.
2 quick games to go over, Jeff, and I'm going to keep everybody updated here. Jeff, it's 12 o'clock noon East Coast time. What does that mean, Jeff? What just got underway?
The draft.
The NFL draft is now underway. 9:31, 9:32, Chicago White Sox in game one of that doubleheader versus the Kansas City Royals. Fulmer versus Oaks, 52% of the tickets going to line up with the White Sox, Jeff, here on the road. Over-under looks at 9.5, and Pinnacle is at a 129 number. No numbers on Oaks here yet, so you're going to get a good look. I'm assuming, I didn't do any research on this guy. He's a young pitcher coming up, making his first start at least this year. Fulmer on the mound out there, Jeff, through 4 starts, a 6.48 ERA. So good luck betting these two pitchers, man.
Yeah, this is an over game. Oaks is only up because it's a doubleheader. I'm not sure he's ready for this level of baseball. It's his major league debut. He's brought over in a trade with the Dodgers in January. I would bet over in this game. I don't. It's just kind of be a blind bet for me. When you have a guy coming up making a debut, he's only thrown in there for a twin bill. I'm interested in overs. That means he's probably not equipped to start. I'd have to think, Kansas City probably doesn't have a lot of great phenoms down at that level from a pitching perspective. Carson Fulmer sucked as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a wild one, 8-5 or something like that. I always like situations like this. This is kind of something that'll be standard, and I'll rock with it.
Yeah, real quick, 9:33, 9:34, Jeff. First game of the doubleheader, Dodgers and San Francisco. Bueller, Stratton in that one. We talked a little bit earlier. 7.5 is the over-under. Looks like 114. Small favorite going to the Dodgers in this one, but obviously the better game by far is that late game. Just don't know what some lineups are going to look like because usually you're going to put out 2 separate ones there depending on who wins or who loses. Always best to wait, at least on that second game before you take somebody. But I don't have much of an opinion on that Dodgers-San Francisco game. You got anything on that, Jeff?
Can't say I do. I mean, I've never really been a big Stratton guy. Don't really have much on it. I'll tell you this. I think the 2 games today that I'm going to probably key in on is that White Sox KC game, game 1. Just going to be something I like to do with two pitchers that probably aren't major league pitchers. I think we'll see some runs in that game. And then I'm going to look towards the Indians. I'm probably going to just lay the run line there with Carrasco. I mean, 9 times out of 10, he's going to give me a good start. I have confidence that the Indians can hit Michael Leake.
All right, May is on the agenda next week, and finally, I'll be able to have some plays next week and make some money moves. But we wanted to thank you for coming in today, watching for the hour, 11 to 12 Eastern, every single week here on the Saturday Sit-Down Closing Line edition. Today was your host, Donnie Rightside. He's the big man on campus. Have a great Saturday. Watch the NFL Draft and win some money out there, folks. We'll catch you at a later time. We'll be back for the right side of campus on Monday morning. Have a great week, folks.
Thank you.